This is Inside Varsity Sports on the Sidelines, Football Edition. Hello again, everyone. Lou Brogno with you alongside is Rich DeCourt, and this is a special 2019 New Jersey High School Football Playoff Preview Edition, if you will, and specifically non-public Group 4 here in the great state of New Jersey. And we'll touch a little bit on NP Group 3, but for the most part, we're going to stick with 4. And why not? Rich, this bracket, this group is really up for grabs. Any one really of 5 or 6 teams has a shot to raise the hardware at the end.
Yeah, we have terrific drama this year for the top prize in high school football in the state of New Jersey. You look up and down this bracket, seeds 1 through 5, any of those guys realistically have a shot to win this thing and hoist the trophy at the end of the year at MetLife Stadium. I mean, obviously such a difficult task to try and seed this one. Only the second year that the NJSIA is seeding non-public 4 and 3 by committee, and it was so difficult to try and sort this one out. All these teams, whether it be St. Joe's Regional, St. Peter's Prep, Don Bosco, Bergen Catholic, all with strong resumes. And what do we end up with in the end? Some incredible parity in a very tight bracket.
10 teams qualify overall in non-public Group 4. There will be some play-in games, if you will, coming up this weekend, and those games include Notre Dame at Del Barton and Paramus Catholic at St. Joe's Metuchen. The winners then get into the full playoff field starting next week, and some interesting first-round games, starting with Bergen Bosco in the first round. It's only the second time that these two teams have ever played in the first round, and the first time since 2000. So Bergen gets the 6 seed, Bosco gets the 3 seed. Talk about getting right into the fire.
Oh my God, you get the energy of a Don Bosco Bergen Catholic to start off this bracket. It's absolutely fitting. I mean, really a tale of two seasons for these two sides. Bergen Catholic starting out really strong, playing some hot football, then the injuries catch up to them. Don Bosco maybe trying to find their footing a little bit with a young offensive line and a first-year head coach, but all of a sudden, they're the hottest team in the state of New Jersey. I mean, can you talk about a more climactic matchup for just round 1 of this thing?
Well, 3 straight big wins for Bosco. And, of course, quarterback Jake Robbins has taken over the offense. He's done an outstanding job. They have that 1-2 punch in the backfield with Jalen Berger and Kyle Monangai. I mean, this team is playing very well, and they are playing Dan Sabella football.
Yeah, I think that's what this was really about, Lou. And we were saying it before we got on and got started with the show today, that this was about Dan Sabella putting his stamp on this particular football team. And obviously it took a while, but the brand of football they're playing now is impressive. And let's not count Vito and company over at Bergen Catholic out just yet. We know what kind of talent they have on that football team. Obviously a little banged up, but if there is any team that's going to have the energy and the motivation to stop Don Bosco's run, it's the Crusaders of Bergen Catholic.
Yeah, speaking of banged up, the Crusaders certainly banged up this year. They lost their great cornerback, Jason Morant, of course, earlier this season. But, hey, this is a team that has a lot of talent. And remember, they beat Bosco 23-17 during the regular season, lost very close games to St. Peter's and also St. Joe's. So, you know, this Bergen Catholic team certainly has some talent. So that's a great first-round game, Absolutely. No question about it. You know, another first-round game that's kind of interesting that a lot of people in North Jersey might not talk much about, Seton Hall Prep and St. Augustine, 4-5 seeds, and these might be the 2 best teams that they've had in quite some time for both clubs. Seton Hall Prep certainly 8-1 this year, has had a tremendous year with the great win over St. Joe's a couple of weeks ago. And to St. Augustine, of course, from South Jersey, a team you might not know much about, but a team that just beat Williamstown, one of the top public schools in the state. So these are 2 teams that can make some noise as well.
Oh, absolutely. Going to be one of the tighter first-round matchups that you'll see in this particular bracket. And Seton Hall knows about as well as anybody that you can't sleep on any opponent this year. Not saying that that's what happened to St. Joe's in their game against Seton Hall Prep, but Seton Hall certainly shocked the state. They know that anybody can do that within this bracket. And St. Augustine, you said it, Lou, a team that may not be known so much up north here, but certainly has some firepower to make some noise amongst the teams they've already played. And if Seton Hall Prep isn't up for that game, could be a lot more interesting than people think.
And 2 terrific quarterbacks in that game for St. Augustine. Their outstanding quarterback, Austin Lehman, who's had a great year, over 1,000 yards passing, and Xander Zabrowski for Seton Hall Prep. hitting on 72% of his passes this year. He, too, well up over 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, and only 4 picks on the season. Number 1 seed, St. Peter's Prep. So the Marauders, even though they lost their last game to St. Joe's, the resume speaks for itself. They've had a terrific year. Taj Bullock pulling the trigger at quarterback, and the great defender Cody Simon heading to Ohio State.
Yeah, I think there's not really all that much you can read into with the loss last week to St. Joe's Regional. I think you saw just the difference that it takes in these tight games, the margin of error, how thin it is. St. Joe's was simply better on a few big plays, and that's the difference that a full offense with Michael Alaimo doing his thing, with Audric Estime and their terrific offensive line all in one piece. That's what St. Joe's is able to do, and they did it against St. Peter's. But by any means, it was not a drop-off from typical St. Peter's Prep football. They're still going to ground and pound as hard as they do. They have an incredibly stingy, rough, physical defense. I mean, it's just going to be a matter of anytime they face off against one of these other big powerhouses from up north, are they going to make those plays? And you really can't tell until the game gets going. The Marauders are still as hot as ever. Don't read too much into that loss from last week. And, of course, St. Joe's, they're back. Yeah. It's simple to say.
Well, St. Peter's certainly has the easiest road on paper. In the first round, they would play either Notre Dame or Del Barton, and if they would win there, in the second round, they would play either Seton Hall Prep or St. Augustine before they would get to the championship game. So certainly on paper, St. Peter's has the easiest road. But you mentioned St. Joe's. Hey, we know the Green Knights lost a couple of games in a row against Bosco, against Seton Hall Prep. They bounced back beautifully against St. Peter's. This is a team you can't underestimate. They played last week without their quarterback, Alamo. They have the great running back in Audric Estime. This is a team that many people thought was the team to beat entering the season. And they're going to have a chip on their shoulder entering the playoffs.
Absolutely. I'm still comfortable saying that St. Joe's might just be the most talented team on paper in the state of New Jersey. I don't think that's a wild jump. And I think they'd say it themselves that those couple losses, the upsets that they suffered, it wasn't the brand of football that they expected to play. And for whatever reason, obviously that happens. That's why we play these games. But that being said, we saw, once again, what they are able to do when they're at full strength and they play up to their full potential. They run the ball, they make big plays, and they shut things down on defense. That's exactly what they did against St. Peter's. And once again, I think that's the theme of this whole bracket throughout these playoffs is who's going to make the big plays when it counts in those marginal moments where inches literally decide games and seasons.
Well, trying to pick a winner in this non-public Group 4 bracket, good luck with that. I mean, you could go with really one of any 4 or 5 teams. Bosco might be playing the best football at this point in the season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone tried to pin me down and pick a winner. I couldn't go there, and I can't imagine you would go there either.
Oh my God, it's tempting. It's tempting, Lou. No, I don't. That's the simple answer, right? You can't figure this out. It's literally going to come down to who's playing the best football at that given moment. Is it going to be St. Joe's living up to their potential? Is it going to be St. Peter's being as consistent as we've seen them throughout the year? Or is it going to be the hot streak from Don Bosco, or maybe even a late surge from Bergen Catholic or somebody else? Who knows?
The huge difference could be if you just take a look, just take 2 teams and just look at them separately. St. Peter's certainly has the easiest road, as we explained earlier, to get to the championship game. A team like Don Bosco, let's say they beat Bergen Catholic in the first round. Well, then in the next round, they probably would play St. Joe's. Yep. Let's say they beat St. Joe's, they probably would play St. Peter's for the championship. So to win a championship, Bosco conceivably would have to go through Bergen, Joe's, and Peters to win the championship. That's a hard road.
Oh, yeah. And it certainly rewards the consistency you saw all year from St. Peter's. Rightfully so, they're that number 1 seed and have such an easier road. Not to count out those other teams. I mean, God, Lord knows what we've seen all season long throughout these non-public Group 4 teams, but certainly a much easier road on that side of the bracket. The side with Bergen, Joe's, and Bosco, it's kind of like when you talk about the World Cup, you have a group of death. This is the group of death.
A quick word about non-public 3. Certainly DePaul has been a team that's kind of been up and down this season. They've had some huge wins. This is a team that gets the number 1 seed in non-public 3. Anybody have a chance to beat DePaul?
I'm hesitant to say no, but I'm going to say no. I think DePaul's going is if they play the brand of football they're expected to. You know, we see them compete regularly with non-public Group 4. They put up some points. I mean, they just beat Bergen Catholic. You know, we saw a terrific effort from them, and one that they didn't play like they were a Group 3 team. You saw plenty of the guys afterwards that game saying this was not an upset. We believe that we could play up with non-public 4. Whether that's the case that they'd actually have a shot in this tournament, I don't know, but non-public Group 3, I think DePaul is just another class ahead. Too many terrific weapons on the offensive and defensive side.
Yeah,
of
one of the best pass-catching duos in the state there. Andrew Butler, their quarterback, and Teddy Affel, their great receiver. Red Bank Catholic is a team that can make some noise out of the short conference. And if you're looking for another player in that non-public Group 3, Donovan Catholic quarterback Ryan Clark, over 1,500 yards of total offense. But I think DePaul's pretty heavy favorite there.
Prove us wrong. Make us look stupid and hoist that trophy. We'll play this clip back for you.
So it should be a lot of fun, and it gets underway, as we said, with the first round games coming up this week, and then next week the quarterfinals. So fasten your seatbelt. Should be fun.
This is going to be a terrific playoff series, Lou. I can't tell you where this one's going, and that's what makes it so exciting.
And we'll be with you throughout the remainder of the playoffs to bring you right through to the championship game. That'll do it for Rich DeCourt, everyone here at On the Sidelines, Inside Varsity Sports. I'm Lou Brogna. Thanks for joining us again. You've been watching Inside Varsity Sports On the Sidelines, Football Edition.